Hey everybody, you're watching CAD Roll Hunter, and I got my hands on some hard to come by Canadian pennies that we're gonna hunt. We're looking for treasure. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, it's James here, and you're watching my channel CAD Roll Hunter. Today I've got 20 rolls of Canadian pennies plus a couple of bonus bags. One's $1.15 and the other might be 30 or 40 cents. That's how they came to me from the bank. And you can see that many of these are actually wrapped in handmade paper wrappers. This is actually paper that somebody's actually written on. They've cut it up and rolled the pennies. Because pennies don't circulate in Canada, it's actually hard to get wrappers. If you go to a store to try to buy some, they're gonna have nickels, dimes, quarters, loonies, and toonies, but no penny wrappers. But there are billions of pennies, or at least hundreds and hundreds of millions of pennies that are still out there and people are still returning to the bank. So the banks are supposed to send these back to the mint to be melted down, recover the copper in them or whatever is in them, and take them out of circulation. But if you're lucky, your bank might sell them to you. So always ask. We're looking to fill some spots in our Lighthouse Vista Nature penny album, and we're gonna hope that there's some oldies and goodies in here. I've got the copper cup and the cup for the steel and zinc cents that are our discards. I'm gonna hold on to all of the copper. All of the copper is worth more than the face value, so I just roll that up and keep it. I've never sold any copper, but it's kind of like holding on to silver, as many people do. They just hold them and trade them and buy them and sell them as a commodity. So that's pretty much what's likely to happen with copper at some point in time. But let's get into these rolls and see if we can find anything good. Maybe we'll actually start with these bags, these envelopes, and get them out of the way. So I've just dumped this out. Already we can see we've got a mix of Canadian and American, some newer and older stuff, but I already see our first finds. We've got some Laureate portrait here. This one here in 1962, and I see another one right here. This one is going to be a 1963, and I thought I saw an edge over here. This one is a 1957, so that's a great start already in our penny hunt. I'm gonna see if I can line these up and get through these and see if we got other goodies in here. Well, look, there's one right there. That's an awesome start. 1956. So we've got a couple from the 50s and a couple from the 60s. That's fantastic. Well, I haven't even touched anything, and I just saw George peeking through here. We flip him over. 1947. This is the one that doesn't have the maple leaf. So this was actually minted in 1947. And many of you will know that in 1947, India got its independence. So in 1948, when the mint needed more pennies, they had to wait for new dies from the Royal Mint in England that didn't say "and Emperor of India" at end imp on them. So they minted a bunch that had the 1947 date on them but had a little maple leaf behind the 7. That's one you'll want to look out for. So I got everything lined up here. I haven't looked through them, just sort of shoved them in my hand and made a line of them. There is another 1963. And we've got a 1967 Confederation commemorative. This one here, there's some doubling we might find on the obverse. I'll throw this under the scope. We'll see if we can see any of that. It's on the legend, and particularly, we're looking where it says DG Regina. We would see double serif along the G. We don't see any of that here. There's also some doubling you might be able to find on the date, and we don't see that. That would be die deterioration doubling rather than a real hub doubling. So far, a lot of older stuff. Another 1964. We got a zinc set, and then right behind that, there's a 1960. Here's another one. Same stack here. We've got, this time, another 1964. So far, we're doing really well. We're still making our way through this. We got a lot to go, and this envelope was just chock full of some oldies. We got one King George V so far. There's another one from the 50s. That's a 59, and right behind it, another one, another 62. Next up, this one's going to be a 1958. So this is our fourth from the 50s. And check it out, there's our oldest yet. It is a 1943. That's another King George VI. I'll flip it around here. And it's really corroded. It's probably been sitting on the ground or something. It must have got wet. We'll count it. It is old copper for the board, even though it's in terrible condition. And here's one, a pretty nice looking 1971. Still has a lot of mint luster on it. So this roll is going to have a little bit of everything. Check this out. We got a foreign coin. The edge is somewhat different. It's got a little bit of a split in there, but this is going to be a euro cent, and I think it's from France. 2 euro cents, I should say, in pretty nice condition. It is a 2017, and that is definitely from France. That is pretty awesome. Foreign coin. And check it out. That is our second 2 euro cent here. Another one. I'm going to put this one under the scope. We'll see where this one might be from. Oh, it's the exact same one. This one's a 2004. And if all of those oldies weren't enough, I just threw a 2005 here under the scope. I'm always looking for the lower minted 2005 P. She's got a bruise on her face, but check that out. There's that P composition mark. So this coin is made of multiply plated steel, and that's why it has that P composition mark on the obverse. Only 30 million of these were minted, so these are extremely hard to come by. The 2005 with no P that are made of zinc were minted at 759 million, so way more likely to find one of those. The last thing we need to do is to put this down and use the magnet to find out if in fact it is made of zinc, or steel I should say. If it's made of zinc, it's an error and a very valuable one. But this one's not it. There were a handful that have that P composition mark that were not, in fact, magnetic. Anyway, that is a great find, and I'm almost certain one we need for the album. So here is that Lighthouse Vista Nature album, and if we just flip it open, we'll see that we need that 2005 P. So we've already got an edition. That's awesome. And we're not finished yet. We've got another oldie. I'll throw this one under the scope here and have a peek at what we've got. It's the 1947 Maple Leaf that I just mentioned. We'll flip it over, and there is our good buddy King George VI. This one, of course, minted in 1948. And of course, if I flip it over again, we'll see that it says DG Rex et Ind Imp. So it still says and Emperor of India, but they didn't want to date these in 1948, well after India got its independence. So they put that little maple leaf on there. So this is the reason why I ask at the bank for pennies. You just never know what you're going to get. In that one envelope, we got 3 from the 40s, 5 from the 50s, and I think 12 from the 60s, a couple of foreigns, and a really low mint, hard to find coin. We'd be hard pressed to get that in a whole box or 20 rolls of pennies in a regular hunt. And we've got all of these rolls to go, so that is simply fantastic. I'm in roll number 2 now of these customer specially wrapped rolls here. We're going to get our first laureate portrait from there. Roll number 1 was a bust. This is another 1964. So I've just opened up roll number 3 here. I actually didn't think this hunt could get any better. We've already found lots of cool stuff. But I laid this out. I looked at the first few coins, and then check this out. We've got a coin here that is smaller than a penny with a reeded edge, and it's got a laureate portrait. It is discolored, but we've got a silver dime. We know it's silver because it's got a laureate portrait on it. I can't even make out the design on the reverse, but that's going to be 80% Canadian silver. And there are a few things we can do. First of all, I can hear that ring of silver when I throw it on the ground there, or on the table. We're going to put this up to the camera, to the microscope, and see if we can find out what year this is. But we've got silver in our pennies. I didn't look closely to see if we had any other silver edges, but you could see how this one might get mixed in with the pennies. It's so discolored. So I don't know if we're going to get a date off this. We can see Canada. We can see 10 cents barely. You can't even really see the Blue Nose schooner. And where the date would be, I can't really make out anything on there. I mean, it looks like there might be a 9 on there or a 6, but the eyes play tricks on you. I don't know. That is just bizarre. I'll see if I can clean it off and get a better look at it. But we got silver in our pennies. This is the second time this has happened to me. I've had this happen one other time. That time it was a US silver dime. This time it's a Canadian silver dime. Awesome. And the hits just keep coming. Here we go. Still in roll number 3. There's another 1962. Roll number 5. There's another laureate portrait. This one, another 1963. Well, here we go. We're still in roll number 5, and we've got an old American. We can see that wheat penny back, and it is a 1944. We'll just throw that under the scope. There it is, definitely 1944. Just by the look of the other side, it was pretty worn. I thought this might be an oldie, but it's a pretty common 1944. Still in that roll in another 4, and it's a little bit bigger than a penny, and I kind of thought I felt something bigger when I picked it up, but I didn't see it when I opened it up. Looks just like a Canadian penny, but this is from Great Britain, the United Kingdom, 1996. 1 penny. Awesome. Roll number 6. This is going to be our 6th penny from the 50s. It's another 1958, our second 1958. And just a couple back from that, our first 1961. Roll number 7, another 1962 laureate portrait. Just at the end of that roll, and I think we got a Dreyer coin. We haven't found one of these in a long time, but you can see how the surface of the coin is softened and the rim is pronounced. I'll throw this under the scope. You can see a little bit better what we're dealing with on this coin here. But all of the detail is softened up here. But with that flattened rim, I think this was sitting in a dryer and basically would have just been rotating around the drum of the dryer. And in some cases, the surface of the coin might have just sort of taken on this effect from all of the constant heat. And the rim gets flattened down as it rolls along the drum, and both sides are affected equally. So that is interesting. We'll set that aside on the board as a bit of a miscellaneous find. Roll number 9, there is another 1964. That is our 6th of the hunt so far. Roll number 10, there she is again. Let's see what we got this time. This time it's a 1955. And I put it under the scope here because this gives us a chance to look for an extremely rare and valuable variety, the no shoulder fold in 1955. We'll flip it over, and what we have is the regular shoulder fold, and you can see that line here. This coin's actually in pretty decent shape, like lots of detail actually for a coin this old. You can still see all the laurel in the hair detail. But what we can really look at is the letters in DEI. And these are pretty much like a non-serif. The no shoulder fold has a very flared ends to the eye, and you would know that for sure. So this is just the regular 1955, but it's a 1955, and that's cool. Roll number 11, I've opened it up, and it looks like we've got a lot of oldies. It looks like it's all going to be copper. I don't see any new edges here. We have a laureate portrait. This wasn't the Ender, so they're not all going to be laureate portraits. That's a 1961. And I'm seeing, you know, some 80s and 70s, so we'll probably get some finds in here, hopefully more, but definitely looks like this could all be copper, and it was one of these rolls here, so this might all be older stuff. So I'm about a third of the way through that roll, and it is all copper so far, and check it out, we got another oldie. It's a King George VI, this one, another 1949. That is pretty awesome. And I pulled this one up under the microscope because there's a variety we want to look for here as well. We're looking for the A Ingratia, the second A. If it points to identical, that is a harder to find coin. In this case, that A is actually pointing between denticles, so this is the common one. If we had found the A between denticles, even in this condition, it might be worth 15 bucks, which would be really cool. We're gonna keep our eyes peeled. If this is all older copper in here, maybe we got another shot at some oldies. Roll number 12, we got another oldie. It's a 1948, and this gives us another chance to find a rare variety, very similar to that 49 we looked at. What we want to look at are the denticles on the back. This is pretty beat up in bad condition. I'll just throw this under. We're going to look at the same spot. We're going to look at the second A Ingratia, and this is pointing between denticles, and that is another common one. The one we want is the A pointing to a small denticle, and the small denticles are quite a bit smaller than the ones you see here. So again, really fun to look for these varieties, and if you can find them, that's awesome. Same roll, and we've got a first year Queen Elizabeth II. It's a 1953, and yet another one we can check for a variety. I'll throw that under the scope there. We can see that's a 53. What we're looking for is whether or not this is the shoulder fold. And the shoulder fold variety is the less common one. This is the no shoulder fold. There is no line across her shoulder there. And we can actually see those flared letters at the top here. So again, this is the common one, but we want to look at every single one we can find. And just a couple coins later, we got another one. This one is a 1962, and they're starting to pile up here. You can see we've got a whole bunch in the 60s. I'm probably not going to show all of them if we continue to get a whole bunch in the 60s, but anything older than that, I'll definitely bring you in. Roll 17, we got another oldie. That one's a laureate portrait 1957. We're doing really well in this hunt. And check this out, just 2 coins later, a 1941. We got another King George VI, and this is the oldest one so far. Same roll, and here is a 1969 we might want to just hold on to and check against the album. Still has some mint luster. It's turning brown. It's what I would call red-brown, but it looks pretty nice and better than any 1969 we found today, for sure. Well, this is turning out to be a pretty awesome roll here. Another oldie, 1946. There he is again, King George VI. And I should have kept the camera on because right behind it, another one, 1945. We are awash in oldies. Same roll, there he is again, 1946, King George VI. Roll 18 is going to give us another coin from the 40s. This is another roll that's almost exclusively copper, except for a few at the end and one in the middle that look to be newer. But once again, another King George VI from the 40s, wicked. And this here is actually the 3rd or 4th from the 60s laureate portraits that I found in the same roll here, so we're doing really well. And in that same roll, another 1955, I already checked it. It is the shoulder fold, the common variety. I've pulled up the 2 1955s that I found in the hunt today. Both of them are the no shoulder fold, the common version, but there is a variety within the no shoulder fold, and you can see here the size of the denticles. On the left, we've got the large denticle, and on the right, we've got the small denticle. And I added a space in my album for both of these varieties. And we didn't have the large denticle version that we have here on the left, so that's going to fill a spot in the album. Well, he's certainly not being shy these days. That one's from the 50s, a 1951. I think that's our first King George V from the 50s. Sorry, King George VI from the 50s. Roll 19, and we're on a bit of a tear. There's another one from the 40s. It's a 1946, and this is another roll that looks like a lot of old copper with just a couple new guys. But we got things in the, well, there's the 1950s. There's 60s, 59, 63 laureate portrait. So we got lots of cool stuff, 64 laureate portrait, and then a brand new shiny 2002. Really weird. And now just a few coins back, officially our oldest coin of the hunt, a 1940. And only a couple behind that, another King George V. Lots of good detail, but some weird maybe corrosion or something on it. And this is now our oldest, a 1939. We still have a roll and a bit to go, and they're getting older and older as we go. One from the 30s, that's incredible. So I pulled up a 1965 that we got earlier under the scope here, and we're going to have one for the album. This is a 1965 that was earlier in this roll, and this here is the blunt 5. So the end of the 5, it comes to a little bit of a point, but it's actually pretty blunt, and you can see how far away it is from the twig. Well, there are 4 varieties of 1965. 2 of them are a blunt 5, and 2 of them are a pointed 5. And I just pulled this other one here. Here's another 1965, and you can see that this point here goes right to the twig. This is the pointed 5. What we need to do is figure out if it is the large bead or the small bead, and to do that, I'm going to just flip it over. So here it is. It's pretty rough. What we're looking at, though, is the A in Regina, and we're looking to see if it's pointing in between 2 small beads or pointing to a large bead. This is the small bead. This is the more common of the pointed 5 variety, but the pointed 5 variety is hard to find no matter what. So this is going to fill a spot in the album. This is one to look for. The more rare variety, of course, is the pointed 5 large bead, and that A would be pointing to a large bead. That's not what we've got here, but we want to check them because we want to fill those holes in the album. So this is our last roll. We're in roll number 20, and there's another 1946. Getting towards the end of it, there's a 1964 with some mint luster still on it. Very cool. Very into that roll, we got another 1963. That is going to do it. The last 2 coins don't look like we got anything there, and we've got a lot to go through. We found a ton of coins. I got to organize these and make sense of them, and we'll do a wrap up and we'll look at the album. So that hunt is complete, about the equivalent of 23 rolls when we count those envelopes, and we did really well. We got tons of copper, probably more copper than we did zinc and steel based on the fact that most of our finds down here are also copper, with one notable exception we'll get to. We got a short stack of US copper, and we got some foreign coins. We got that 1996 United Kingdom 1 penny, and we got two euro cents. That's really awesome in our hunt. But we did so much more than that. We ended up getting 44 laureate portraits from the 60s, and you can see 60, 61, 62, 63, 64. It looks like a little bit of a graph, and that's exactly what we'd expect to see. The 63s and 64s are far more plentiful. But we didn't stop there. We got tons of other finds here. In the 50s, I'll have to pull it up on my little spreadsheet here, we got 12 common 1950s. We got 12 common 1940s. We even got a 1939. That's our oldest of the hunt. We got a few other things. We got a US wheat cent from 1944 and a few other things that were a little less common here. I'll zoom in. We got that 2005p, a little bit low mint. We got what I think is a Dreyer coin. You can see the edges are a little bit raised and the surface of the coin is obscured. We got that 1965 pointed 5 small bead. That's going to fill a spot in our album. We got a pretty nice 1969 here. We got a collection of other cents that I'm going to look at in my US collection, as well as perhaps an upgrader. There's a 2004p. I found some really, really nice ones. And we got a stack, or a pile, I should say, of US zinc cents as well. But the absolute best find of this hunt has to be this laureate portrait Canadian silver dime. It's an 80% silver dime. Finding it here disguised as a penny, and it was really hard to read, but I think what we've got here is a 1960. It's really hard to read that date. Anyway, whatever date it is awesome to find silver in our Canadian penny hunt. It is extremely improbable. It's the second time I've actually found a silver dime disguised as a penny in one of my penny roll hunts. The last time it was a 1946 US silver dime. This time it's a laureate portrait Canadian. So we'll take a look and see if any of these are going to fill some spots in our Lighthouse Vista Nature album. Okay, we made some fantastic progress in the album. We're up to 97 of 131 spots. We added 5 and we had an upgrade. So we added this 1945, the 1947. We added the 1949A between denticles. We also added the 1955 shoulder fold large denticle, which I've added a spot in the album here. I still have to put that in. But we've got it right here. I still have it under the microscope from earlier. And of course, we added that 2005p lower mintage, and I upgraded the 2004p. This one was just phenomenal. The one before it, or the one we had in the album previously, just had a few little discolorations on it. So we have made some fantastic progress. It is always tons of fun looking through Canadian pennies. I hope you guys enjoyed this video where we actually found silver in our Canadian penny hunt. I would really appreciate it if you're not already subscribed to my channel, Cadroll Hunter. Hit that button and subscribe now, and like the video as well. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next time. The sponsors of today's video are Lighthouse Canada and the Charlton Press. Lighthouse Canada is the leading supplier of high-quality numismatic supplies in Canada, and the Charlton Press is the leading publisher of coin and paper money catalogs and price guides for Canadian collectors. Go check out their online stores today and use the exclusive discount code CRH20 for 20% off all your purchases.